What's up, everyone? It's Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training, and we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And we are here to answer any and all dog behavior Q&A or questions that you may have. Um, we stay here for about an hour. You can ask as many questions as you like, and feel free to ask anything. No question is a dumb question. And just know that your questions are going to help others who may be struggling with the same things. So feel free to ask as many questions as you like. And I hope everyone is having the best Thursday possible. Okay, let's get to it. What's going on, man? What's going on, Elias? How are you, buddy? Okay, here we go. Melissa says, I have a fenced yard and it is secure, but there are roughly 20 dogs in our small neighborhood between us all. How can I get my dog? How can I get my two cheese to stop barking? To start to stop starting barking matches with the neighbor dogs. They only see them through the slats between the fence boards. Like my dogs are always the ones to start it. It's not a few barks back and forth. It's continuous. Well, you'll have to give them a consequence that will make them rethink their actions. You'll have to give them a consequence worth it to them too. And that can be as simple as a squirt bottle, or that can be as complex as an e-collar correction. But one way or the other, they're going to have you intervene to help them learn that that behavior is not okay, and to help them learn to deal with that impulsive behavior. So they're being impulsive when they see a certain dog. It's an obsessive behavior to react to those neighborhood dogs. And again, you must step in between, give them a consequence that makes them use their brain, makes them engage with you at least for a minute, and free them of that obligation to protect or to bark or whatever it is. And so that's what my approach would be. Again, it can be uh, a squirt bottle, a doggy don't, an air horn, something to get the dogs to go, what was that? Didn't like that. Don't want that. So that's what's got to happen. All right. Thank you for your question, and feel free to ask another. Okay. Next question. All right, Roxanne. I have a 12-week-old German Shepherd, and I'm trying to teach him to sit, but he's so food-motivated that he goes crazy when I hold a treat for training and won't sit still. What else could I try? You could just try holding that treat in front of him, not letting him get it, and then just waiting. Just giant schnauzers. Okay, thank you for correction. But no, all you have to do is be more patient than the dog's willingness to be crazy. And then he will finally listen to you and give you the behavior you want. So allow him to kind of go through all of the things he wants to do. Ooh, treat, going crazy. Let him get that through his system. It's a good lesson. It's a good lesson to learn anyway, long term. That all of the crazy ways you think you can get what you want is not going to work. Give me what I want, what I originally asked for, and then you can get what you want. So my advice would be to just wait. Stand there, don't talk to them, say what you want, tell them to sit, and just stand there, you know? Stoic, and you'll see that he'll sit for you and he'll give you those puppy eyes. All right, thanks for your question and feel free to ask another. Okay, next question. All right. The pandemic has really affected puppy training. Training classes are canceled, which limits your dog meeting other dogs and interaction with people. I have a 13-month-old male intact Australian Shepherd who is easily distracted. Walks can be pretty challenging to keep him focused. He walks great in the basement, watching me healing on and off leash. He's totally different when you add a distraction on a walk. Walks can be exhausting and frustrating. He wants to mark his territory and greet every person and dog he sees. I try to redirect him to focus on me by making him about turn, circle left, sit, and I reward him with praise and treats. But it's short lived. I often walk the same area because if I take him to a different area, it takes the distractions up another level. 1 mile walk is about our limit. We do exercise him in other ways, fetch, frisbee, treadmill, training games. I long for the day which I can enjoy a walk with my dog. How can I make that possible? You've come to the right no, right place. I'm sorry. Oh, snap. Okay. So, basically what you're doing, man, traditional training, man, is really underestimating dogs' intelligence. What you need to address is the dog's willingness to not listen to you and confronted with your attempt to get the dog to listen, and your attempt has to be greater than their stubbornness. So the dog wants to do what it wants on the walk, but you have to at a higher level get the dog to do what you want the dog to do. And so a couple of rules on the walk that I have are no sniffing, no peeing, no pooping. I'll let my dogs do that before. Um especially if they're uh, uh insecure or if they are reactive to other dogs. I don't allow them to make many decisions um while we're in the learning process. And so you'll have to get that dog to heal with you. Now, here's the problem that I was talking about. When you get him to sit and focus on you, he should not be rewarded right away. Everyone wants to reward their dogs right away for doing the thing right away. Why don't you not do that? Just try not rewarding your dog right away because there's still things in work there yet. When I put my dog in a sit and he focuses on me right away, it's not necessarily the time to give praise or treats. It's just not. There could be things that the dog still needs to work out, which means it's not necessarily important that the dog look at you. The dog needs to look at what it's being reactive towards because it needs to deal with that. Redirecting sometimes is a means to avoid the stimuli that makes them nervous. So, on one hand, yes, it is good that the dog engages with you, and I would say not so much for a treat though. Um, but on the other hand, the dog also needs to deal with what it needs. The dog needs to look at what is making the dog nervous, but in the right way, looking at you. Now, here's the other thing: when you're redirecting, when you're making all these turns and circles and sits, when the stimuli is present, you're actually paying too much attention to the stimuli by doing all these, making all these changes, as opposed to just walking. Because prior to the stimuli, you're just walking. And then all of a sudden you see a dog and now you're doing all this dancing. Well, the dog is going to associate the dancing with the stimuli, the dog with the other dog. And so it is my opinion that you should continue to just walk and walk in a manner where the dog can't tell the difference if there's a dog or not coming from what you're doing. So you should just walk. You should keep the boundaries that you set on the walk, no matter if there's a dog or not. Don't try and get the dog to heel when there's another dog around or when there's a squirrel around. Try and get the dog to heel the entire time. That would be my advice. Good evening. But great question, because again, every single person that I train always puts their dog in a sit. After even telling their dog to sit 5 times, they put their dog in a sit and they give them a good boy or a good girl. Well, aren't you maybe telling the dog that they can tell you no 5 times before they actually give it to you, before they actually sit down? How about only telling the dog good boy when you don't have to repeat yourself? All right, guys, I got a little shameless little plug here, but these are awesome. So this is a product called Unoa, and this is a CBD peanut butter dog treats. My good friend out of Atlanta sells these. If you go to worldofunoa.com, these treats really work. A lot of the CBD treats I've tried don't do anything for my dog at all, but these actually do calm my dogs down. So I'd give it a try. I haven't tried any other CBD treats that actually work. So take a look at it. See what you like. Try it out and see if you like it. But on rainy days or days where your dog may need to be a little bit more calm, try it out. They also have little little hemp extract droplets you can drop in their food. I gotta show them to every camera here. Got little droplets you can put in their food. Check it out. They're awesome. They really work. And get that. There we go. Check it out, guys. All right. Let's move on. Lauren says, how do I get my dog? How do I stop my dog from being basically a diva? When there's other dogs or small children in the house, she is possibly territorial, excuse me, specifically with the couch and her kennel. She knows now to just put herself in her kennel when she doesn't want to be around them, but she constantly stays in there to basically pout. Is there any way to stop this behavior so she isn't always in her kennel when other dogs or children are around? Outside the house, 99% of the time, I have zero issues with her, and I am more at ease in the outside scenario. So yeah, so right now, her kennel is her sort of safe space. Now, you want to make sure what you're doing is not allowing children to overwhelm the dog. On one hand, you have to give the dog the benefit of the doubt that children can sometimes be overwhelming. But on the other hand, your dog can't be unfair to children just being children. And if the children are just running around playing with each other and not tormenting the dog, then I expect certain behavior from my dog, which means allow them to be children. So you'll have to kind of figure out that balance. If she actually is being a diva and territorial, then she should have a consequence for that. And maybe it's okay to for her to put her in her kennel. I think that's kind of cool that she actually decides to do that. Um, and when she does that, I'm okay with that. Um, because she's kind of figuring out herself. But again, if she's still having problems, that kind of tells you that you have to step in to teach the dog a little bit more in that regard too. And so the best way to help the dog through or feel safe is to give the dog something to do amongst the children that make the dog nervous. So you could first and foremost tell the children to ignore the dog, and then Give the dog a place to stay. Eh, and the kennel is sometimes not good because it can create uh, territorial um, frustration. Um, but it could work for you. Yeah, I don't know. But either way, if the dog can listen to you in that environment, in that situation, then the dog will learn. All right. Thank you for your question, and feel free to ask another. All right. Okay. Hawkins says, my family will be welcoming a new puppy in weeks. In weeks. Are there specific do's or don'ts in the first few days? This can be regarding the dog towards the kids or vice versa. Depends on the dog. Um, depends on the breed. Depends on the breed, and then it depends on the temperament of the dog. Um, just use your instincts. Don't allow the dog to be bombarded by a bunch of people. Take your time. Read the dog. That's the most important part. You can read the dog. If the dog is okay with a bunch of people being around, then so be it. If the dog can't, if the dog is backing up, if the dog looks scared, give the dog space. Simple as that. That's it. I mean, if you don't want pee and poop in your house, keep an eye on the dog. Um, I mean, that's about it. I mean, that's, for a young dog like that, potty training is pretty much what you're going to be doing. You can help the dog learn to follow you by taking it on a walk, just one person and the dog, or a couple of people. I like to do that with my puppies that I'm bringing in. So that's about it. All right. Next question. Okay. Maria Mar says, I have a pack of 4 dogs. 10-year-old wiener, spayed, female. 7-year-old male, neutered, pit. 2-year-old boxer, spayed, pit mix, female. And 6-month male mix, lab pit. I don't know what else he is. My question is, when someone knocks on the door or the doorbell rings, they go wild and they're now fighting each other. They will bicker with each other. We use water spray to break the behavior. This is a new behavior for the first 3 dogs and started a few weeks ago. And it primarily started with the youngest intact male. He will get neutered at a year due to medical growth issue that he has. How do I break this? Well, the easy solution would be to put up a sign on your door that says, do not ring my doorbell. Text me, call me if you are arriving at my residence. Or to the mailman, just leave the daggum package at the door. UPS, FedEx. Okay, that's a way. Um, Now the other way would be to get more control of that intact male, of that young male, because there's a lot of out of control energy going on what the doorbell represents. You can also help the whole pack become more calm when you come in through the door. If they are at all doing anything other than laying down and chilling, uh, then you should tell them to go lay down. and ignore that hyper behavior. The doorbell and the door represent high energy, and high energy also is attached to aggressive or out of control, instability. And some dogs who are controlling want to control what they see as not as out of control, which it sounds like, "Hey Amy," which it sounds like that male is, or that male could have a problem with another member of your pack. Um, in addition to what I just explained. So the best the best case scenario is to get control over all dogs and have the ability to say, go lay down once the dog doorbell rings, and all of them go lay down. That would be the best. Easier said than done. But the former two suggestions um, are even better. Now, again, you know who starts the problem. That's who you can probably keep your eye on when the doorbell rings. You can practice it. Have one of your other family members come to the door, ring the doorbell, and have maybe the dog that would starts to fight on leash or something like that, and then get control of your pack. So you can practice what the doorbell means, developing a deeper dialogue with your whole entire pack, and then when it happens in real life, you will have an easier time getting control over them. But that's what needs to happen. All right. Thanks for your question, and feel free to ask another. All right. Next question. My Jenna says my 7-month-old dog nips guests when they are in our home. Even after introductions, he will sometimes get spooked hours into the interaction and nip. What should we be doing? I'm guessing this dog is a German Shepherd. Just a wild guess. Please feel free to tell me I'm wrong. But sounds like a German Shepherd to me. 7 months old, already nipping. That's a big problem, man. Wow, 7 months old. Do you know? Are you letting this dog do whatever the hell it wants? Because that's really young to be doing that. And I will give you the benefit of the doubt, not knowing the breed myself and not knowing the temperament of the dog. But um, you have got to control. What that tells me is that you have to get the dog to pay attention more to you. The dog is um so committed to making itself feel safe that it totally disregards your authority, leadership, whatever you want to call it, and decides to take matters into its own hands. You have to change that. Um, but that starts with, it's not just, again, I talked about this last week, but it's not just that situation that you have to worry about. How well is that dog actually listening to you in other areas? I'd be willing to bet that it doesn't. And you can help the dog listen to you better when it matters by making it listen to you when it doesn't matter. Again, many people say 99% of the time the dog is good. That's bullcrap. 99%. How about this? Give me the percentage of how well the dog listens to you. That's what a good dog is. A good dog, a good dog, your definition of a good dog is he's not biting or barking. And that's 99% of the time he doesn't do that. That doesn't mean he's good. How well is he listening to you? That's what should be your your uh your evaluation of how good he is, how well he listens to you when it's really easy for him not to listen to you. When you've come home from work, and you're sitting on that couch and the dog gets on the counter, are you going to say, Fido, stop, get off 5 times? Or are you going to go over there and address it? Because I know you're tired and you're probably not going to address it. I'm not talking about you personally because I don't know you at all. Just talking about an accumulation of the calls and people that I talk to. So within the 99% is when you got to do the work to get the dog to listen to you during that 1%. That's what I'm saying. But 7 months old is really young, which is good because you got time to change it. But holy smokes. That's really young to be nipping at this point. That's true fear, you know. Maybe. Depends on the dog. Okay. How do you train a dog not to dig the ground? Well, you want to make sure you're watching the dog in your backyard. And for two, you want to make sure your dog is exercised because boredom will do it, and then lack of supervision will allow it. Um, and so you have to catch them in the moment, and or make sure your dog is exercised so that the dog doesn't want to just exert some energy digging into your ground, into your earth. That makes sense. Okay. Whitney says, how do you get a dog to be comfortable with going on his bed? It took 25 minutes of repeating and guiding him once. Then he started and took a few more minutes. So try this. I would try adding all the layers that you have possible. And that means leash and e-collar. And sometimes that means going all the way back to basics and teaching that place command as you would in the video that I sent you in the email. But um, working with the level that works with the e-collar, which means he's actually starting to take you seriously, and then continuing to um, put him back. Um, but again, work with the level that works. I can't stress that enough. Um, because if the dog continues to ignore or doesn't take you seriously, then the dog needs more guidance from you. We both know how stubborn that boy is, so keep at it. Keep at it. All right. How to train a dog not to pull while walking. Well, you have to give the dog something it would like to avoid when it pulls. And a prong collar would work with that really well. So I'm going to go ahead and write prong collar so that you can hear that. Whoa. Okay. Prong collar. Make sure you get one of these, and then you watch a video on how to walk a dog on a prong collar. I have one on YouTube that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a sort of do-it-yourself video, and it'll help you out. All right. Okay. Car training, do's and don'ts, and help for giant breed dogs. Car training, good question. Don't let any dog be obsessive about the car, about looking out of the window. I would suggest, if you can, put your puppy or dog, new dog, in a crate, in an airplane crate, not a wire crate, an airplane crate. Does prong collar hurt dogs? No. I would suggest that because the crate is sort of going to be a safe space. Sometimes dogs that look like they want to look out really are doing it because of an insecurity, and you want to free them of that insecurity in uh, your crate. I mean, excuse me, in the car. Some dogs, again, really fall victim to anxiety in the car if there's just too much going on. And so the crate would be where I would go, getting the dog comfortable in the crate. The crate is where the dog should sleep, this and that. Um, but if you can't have a crate, get the dog to listen to you in the car. That's the other key to getting the dog to overcome fears, anxiety, barking, aggression, whatever it may be in the car. Get the dog to lay down and be calm in that car. Um, so a non-negotiable down command may be your key, may be the ticket. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. Okay. Moving along. Um. Okay. At what age should I expect my puppy to consistently listen to commands? He's almost 4 months old, and he will listen if he thinks I have a treat. But if he's super excited and there's no food involved, he ignores the command. Hence, what's wrong with food? Trying to get your dog to listen. Um, what you'll need is, yes, you should get your dog. Yes, you should expect your dog to listen to you. Um, I wouldn't be super. Well, let's just say yes, you should expect your dog to listen to you, and not for a treat, but out of respect that you're going to follow through with what you want him to do without a treat. Treats are just for teaching, shaping. Once he knows it, the treats should go away. Now, the dog should be working for you. Now, the dog should be listening because you said something. Um, and you may have to keep a leash on the dog. It makes it a little bit easier, even in the house. Just let him drag it. Makes it a little easier on you to do certain things, but the dog should do, what you want in respect of, again, knowing that you're going to follow through with what you want from the dog. For example, if the dog is outside and you tell the dog to come and he doesn't come, he should now know that you're going to come and get him. And once he knows that, he's going to come. You know what I'm saying? Once he knows, he's he ought to expect hearing your feet hit the ground, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, here he comes. Here she comes." So that's what you want, and the 4 months is plenty strong enough to realize that. So follow through. That's the key. Making your dog a believer that you are going to follow through with what you tell them, and their attempt to get out of what you want them to do is not going to work by any means. That means running from you, throwing a tantrum. Some dogs even bite. But if all of that can be taken away, then they'll just be fine with it as long as you're fair to them. Okay? Thank you for your question. And feel free to ask another. Okay, where did that go? I think I missed a question. Oh, no, it was a statement. I also have seen the youngest male is trying my 7-year-old male. My 7-year-old has done wonderful in not engaging and ignoring the younger, but I see potential of a physical altercation. So yeah, get that young male in order, man. Get that young male to really respond and make sure he knows that it's not okay to do that. If your older male is ignoring, then that means there's a problem within your pack. There should be no ignoring. There should just be existing. There should be no avoiding. That means he's really self-advocating, and you want the dog to sort of, on one hand, rely on you to handle that situation or that tension or break up that tension. And so, teach that young male that it is not okay to to even think that it's a that in those in that way. Your young male should learn that it's not okay to fight first and foremost. But if you see a problem between both of your males, make sure you are teaching the one who is pursuing that it's not okay to pursue, and help out the older guy by not being able, not having to walk on his tiptoes around the other male. How do you break up that tension? Well, you'll have to watch them. There's many ways. Depends on the sensitivity of all those dogs. But you'll have to watch them. You can even fix it with just your voice. If you see any staring whatsoever, any body stiffness whatsoever, you should intervene right then and there. Um, you know that that again, in a way, is stepping in and advocating for that old dog who really doesn't feel good about the energy that the young dog is bringing. So the young dog, um, who may be trying to prove himself, should not be allowed to think in that manner, um, because the dog will learn that through you, coexisting is what you'll have to do here. And so correct the little body language cues that you see on a day-to-day basis. That could be, you know, in the area of letting them outside, feeding them, hanging out with 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 toys or bones. Just watch the young male. That's who you have to watch, because that dog is the one starting stuff. All right. Hope that helps. Do I recall him to the crate? And should I have them walk together more often? No, I wouldn't recall him to the crate. Um, I wouldn't have them walk together. No, I would say, if the dog decides to stare at that one dog, I would say, no, stop staring or go lay down, one of the two. But I wouldn't take the dog away from the situation that it needs to become comfortable with. I would allow the dog to grow in that situation with you being there every single time, right? So, um, but that's just me. That's what I would do. Okay. Sounds like good parenting advice. I appreciate that. All right. Let's keep it moving. I think we got one more question on the Facebook page. You're welcome. Crate training, do's and don'ts. Oh, car training. Oh, I already answered that. Sorry. Thanks again, Majors Academy, for all you do for our Dusty. I appreciate that. Thank you. See you guys Saturday. I think I got them all on here. All right. Let's see. What's the best way to train a dog in a car that whines when she sees people, vehicles next to us passing us on the road? Short drive, not so much the issues. It's the longer rides that affect them. That's weird, because usually it's the short rides that affect the dog, not the longer rides. But give the dog some guidance in that situation. The thing that I do is make sure that the dog is laying down or even sitting. Because what you want to do is, on one hand, occupy the dog's mind by giving the dog a job to do, so it can't totally focus on what is stressing the dog out. So if the dog is halfway minding you and not just indulging in what has the dog's attention, then on some level and with time, you start to matter more, or the stimuli starts to matter less. So give the dog something to do that it must do, um, and help the dog learn to deal with those um, those things that provoke that impulsive behavior. All right. Thank you for your question. All right. My dog growls sometimes so randomly. I use the e-collar for that, even if it isn't immediate. Oh wait, my dog growls sometimes randomly, so I use the e-collar for that, even if it's immediate. Or do I only do it when immediate or not at all? Partially, think it's pain as he is rash, but still not okay. Uh, um, adjusting the collar. Um, so when the dog growls, so first of all, with your dog, like I was suggested, I think you should get a muzzle for the dog, and then you can ignore the growling because the growling is going to be your communication, is the dog's way to communicate before it gets to something worse, and in your dog's case for sure. So I would get a muzzle, and then you can ignore the growling and just correct the dog if the dog decides to try and use its teeth on you. No, only when you are trying to get the dog to wipe its paws or rub its skin or do whatever. So the muzzle's not on all the time, but only when you want the dog to, or only when you're trying to do the things that provokes the growling. That's what I would do. But his growling can't work, and his attempt to bite also cannot work. That's what I was doing here. All right. Thank you for your question. I'm glad you're here. Okay. In your experience, what is the biggest mistake owners make in training? Good question. Um, that's a good question. What is the biggest mistake owners make in training? Let's see. I would just say relying on treats as a means to uh, get the dog to listen in stressful situations, especially with dogs who don't have an appetite strong enough to listen in stressful situations. So, that's what I would say would probably be a big one. Um, yeah, trying to persuade a dog when it really needs, you know, when it really needs the respect of the relationship there. I think that is the biggest mistake. Um, and so the other little nitpicky thing that I talked about earlier is rewarding your dog too soon. Um, Rewarding your dog for ignoring you for 5 times. Sit, Bailey, sit. No, Bailey, sit. No, sit. Good boy. That's I wouldn't say that that's a good boy if he said no to you 5 times. So that's a little bit of a mistake. That's another maybe mistake. Oh, and one more thing. And this will be at a promise, but expecting your dog not to pull when they're wearing a harness. That's probably that's a big no-no. So that's it for now. All right, those of you who just joined in, please feel free to ask as many questions as you like. Um, we'll be here until I run out of questions. So feel free to ask. No questions are dumb questions. And yeah, keep them coming. Okay. Best way to introduce my dog to strangers. When they come to our house, I usually put her in her crate and she barks. When she's calm, I let her out and she meets the strangers and she's fine. However, I was told it's wrong. You were told it's wrong by who? Hey, look, whatever works. If she's fine and I would, okay, first and foremost, I should say the exact way you just, described how you introduce your dog to people is exactly how I would tell people to introduce their dog. I think that's that's perfect. You put her in a crate. That's good. That's advocating for the dog. You wait until she's calm. That's also great. Then you bring her out. Then she meets strangers and she's fine. That's perfect. Keep doing that. Who I would love to know who told you it was wrong and then listen to their solution because it doesn't get much better than that. All right. Okay. How do you regain control of your pack? With multiple dogs, it seems one is always getting picked on by the alpha in the house at the time. Since Porter is with you, the other large male has taken the alpha role. Well, take control. You take control of the alpha role. You be the alpha. Try that. You take control of what goes on in your house. Do not allow the dogs to take control of your house. Um, you dictate what goes on, especially if something's going on that's not fair. That could possibly lead to bad behavior. You step in. You say no, and it will stop. All right. Because that one that gets picked on may get fed up and say, "Hey, I'm sick of being bullying. I'm gonna stand up for myself." And then you may have a bloody mess on your hands. Could you explain why harnesses aren't a good communication tool, and thoughts on flex leads? Yeah. Um Certainly. Harnesses aren't good communication tools because there's no way to communicate. You're just basically holding your dog. You're just basically keeping your dog from running away from you. There's no communication there. Yeah, you're basically saying, you can't go anywhere. I don't want to put anything around your neck because it might hurt you. But so this is what I'm going with. But there's zero communication, there's zero dialogue with the dog, because harnesses are made for pulling. So if you want to communicate to your dog that you want them to pull, you can put a harness on. Um, Now when it comes to flex leads, I think in Green Bay, I think they're actually illegal, or they're trying to get them to be illegal if they're already not. Um, let's see. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I use flex leads in particular scenarios where I want the dog to not use me as a thing for security, a means of security. Some dogs can be more reactive the more codependent they are of you. For example, I had a mastiff, just 1 year old mastiff, so insecure. And I knew that it was causing more tension because he could be closer to me. So what I did was I put him on a flexi leash, and I said, "Oh, you want to go over there and confront those dogs that you're barking at? Go ahead." Not really. I didn't allow him to go over there, but I gave him the option to. And sometimes when you give dogs the freedom to go do it, they choose not to do it. But when they don't have the freedom to do it, that they act like they want to do it. It's almost like telling a teenager, you can't go to the movies, you can't go to the movies, you can't go to the movies, and then they break out of the house and they go to the movies. Maybe not. Maybe that wasn't the same situation, but or when you give the team to go and then it decides not to go. I don't know. Anyway, maybe forget about that example. But let me just give you another example of a dog that I was talking about that I was working with. So I was working with a deaf blue heeler, and he was car aggressive, like big time. So much so that the dog would turn and bite whoever was walking him. And so I said, okay, you got big problems with short tension. So I'm gonna put you on a flexi lead, give you the freedom, or I'm gonna make you think you have the freedom to go and get that car if that's what you want. And then I found out that the dog did not want to go after the car. Um, it didn't do anything. It was just chilling. So that's my spiel on flex leads. I hate to say, so many even trainers would tell you flexi leads are bad, blah 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 blah. You can use any tool to your advantage, but I'm not condoning the regular use of flex leads because I know that they can be bad in some dog owners' hands. So, but I'm just being honest. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, we got time for one more question. Um, Jeremy, any thoughts on our dogs putting its paws on our counters and dining table? We say no, but she shrugs it off. Yeah. Um, so your no isn't obviously valuable enough. You'll have to add something to make your no valuable. And again, it can be as sensitive as a squirt bottle or as heavy as an electronic collar. But one way or the other, depending on how stubborn your dog is, you'll have to add one of those tools or anything in between to get your no to actually mean something to where the dog won't shrug it off. Does that make sense? So you'll have to add some sort of consequence where the dog says, all right, I'm going to try to avoid that consequence the next time for doing this behavior. And then once your dog realizes that the proper consequence isn't worth going to counter surf on the dining table or on the dining table, the dog will stop the behavior. So add value to that word no by adding some sort of adversive tool and then eventually working back to just the no, working away from those tools. All right. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to call it on this one. I appreciate you guys watching. Please feel free to give me a thumbs up and all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully. Yeah, I should be here next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Okay, bye.